Hey guys, Phil from Trail Talk here, and today we're going over the 2022 Polygon Bikes lineup. So jumping right in, the for Siskiyou line is going to be what you guys probably want to see most. Sorry about the stream cutting out before, but yeah, as I said, the Siskiyou lineup, there's a Siskiyou N, T, and D. So N's going to be your enduro, T is going to be your trail bikes, and then your D is your downcountry or more XC kind of bike. So the Siskiyou N9, don't have too much info about the 2022 model. Don't know if the frame continuing or it's just getting new spec, but I know it's been delayed a fair bit, so it's probably not going to be until February, probably March, until we kind of hear a bit more about that kind of one. But if you're looking for a fun kind of enduro bike, especially this frame, it was really fun and playable. Not the longest or craziest in terms of stability or anything like that, but it was always a great bike and kind of on that more like free ride, kind of shorter bike, really easy to throw around, but also has the decent amount of travel to really handle those big hits. So I really enjoyed that bike. If I was kind of going to give it a rating as we kind of do on the Trail Talk scale, I'd probably give it probably a good, because it's kind of like really good value package, but the geometry could use with a little bit of an update. So then moving on to the Siskiyou T8, which is my bike. So as you guys know, I've done a review on this. So if you want to check that out, head to the link in the bio, I'll put that there. Or if you just go to my channel, it's probably one of the first videos that you'll see. But this is one of my favorite bikes in the market. Just great geometry. It's got a really nice roomy reach, decently slack head angle, short chain stays, nice and fun. The seat angle is super steep. It's just got everything you want in a modern bike. So that's why I'm so stoked on it. So yeah, it's got the whole package. So definitely going to have to give it probably one of the best ratings out there if you're looking for a bike. So it's going to be amazing on the value scale there. And that goes for the T7 as well. I don't think you're missing out too much if you go the T7. So main downside is probably you're getting that kind of more budget oriented fork with the Recon, but the rear shock between the Deluxe like Plus on that and the Fox, not a big difference there. Drivetrain, same range with the Duo and the SLX on the other one, but it's just a little bit heavier. So you're not missing out too much there. It's just mainly the brakes. You get the 2-piston in the rear instead of the 4-piston front and rear. You've only got the 4-piston up the front on the T7. So the main downside really is that fork. But for the price difference, if you can find it in stock or if you want to save a little bit, I think the T7 is a great option. Amazing value there as well. So going back down to the Siskiyou D. So you've got the Siskiyou D5, D6, and D7. You'll notice that the D6 isn't here because that is a Bikes Online exclusive. So Polygon Worldwide site won't have the D6 there. But if I was probably going to pick one out of the bunch, I probably would go the D6 because you're getting the same frame as the D7. So if you aren't too familiar, the D5 comes with a quick release rear axle and it only comes in 27.5-inch wheels. So small, medium, and large in that. Whereas the other ones come in small, medium in 27.5 and medium, large, extra large in 27.5. So that's something to take into consideration there. If you're looking kind of like more hardtail money and you kind of want a little bit more forgiveness, then the D5 might be a great option. Good little platform to upgrade on, build on if you're just starting out. But I do recommend spending that little bit extra for the D6 or the D7. So with the D6, I will get up another screen. So just give me 1 second. We'll share another screen for you so you can see that one. Give me 1 second. Okay. So we'll head on to the Bikes Online website so you can see it. So if you aren't too familiar, they've actually updated a few things. So if you need help finding the right bike, they've got the bike finder here on the homepage now. So that will help you guys find out. If you kind of just want to search through those, you can do that. And there's also new category pages as well if you haven't seen those yet. So you can kind of dial in what you want. And then there's full descriptions for each of them. Really good. They've done a really good job on this. It's a big improvement on what it was before. But if you're looking, we'll go into the cross country. And then we'll go to that's the Xstrata. Then we'll go to the D6 here. So D6, as I said, what I like about it, you're getting that frame with the through axles. So it is boosting the rear, but not boost up front. So that is something to take into consideration. But if you're kind of at this price point, I feel like most people, they might upgrade the fork. But if you're going from this bike, you're going to probably move up to a different bike in the future, kind of after you kind of got a bit more confidence. So not too much of an issue for me. But to be honest, the performance that you get kind of like going up to the D7, I feel like if you upgraded this as you kind of progressed, you probably would get a similar package in the end. So I feel like the D6 is probably the best value. And they're going to be back in stock, I think, around about kind of February kind of time. Check here. So, yeah, around February in Australia. And I think it's similar for the US as well. So, you're getting that 1x10 Shimano Dior drivetrain, dropper post, air fork, air shock. I think it's a good little value package there. So, if we're going to give it a rating, I'm going to have to give it, I'll give it a good, because it's kind of like great value package. It's kind of in between the good and kind of amazing range. So the geometry is really good. Seat tube could be a little bit shorter. But other than that, seat tube is nice and steep, so it's going to put you in a nice, efficient climbing position. Oh, the camera's gone again. Give me 1 second, see if I can fix this. Do not know what's happening, guys. Sorry about that. Come on, work. Not having much luck tonight. What's going on? Uh, All right, can you hear me and see me again? Message me, put something in the chat. I have no idea what happened. Can you hear me? What about now? Are we back? Fingers crossed. Okay. I think we've got confirmation. I'm so sorry, guys. I have no idea what's happening. It's an absolute mess. All right. So where were we? I think we just finished the Siskiyou Siskiyou D6. So we'll go back to the screen now. So fingers crossed, should be working. Let's get back into it. So yeah, as I mentioned, the D6 is probably my pick, but yeah, the D7 is going to be a good option. If you're not kind of going to upgrade anything too much, then the D7 is probably going to be a better option for you. So moving on now, we'll go down to the syncline. So kind of a bit of an unsung hero in the range. So it's pretty similar geometry to the Xstrata. So it's going to be good for kind of more that kind of in between XC and kind of trail riding. So good carbon frame. So it's probably going to be one of the best value carbon frames on the market. If you do want to know Australian prices and stuff like that, you can just jump on the Bikes Online website or Bicycles Online, and they'll have all the Australian prices there. But on the Polygon website, it's all USD. So yeah, the Syncline C5, C3, and C2. Probably if you kind of go this bike, I think probably the C5 is the way to go. But yeah, you're getting a great drivetrain, good solid carbon frame. It's on the stiff side. It's going to be really responsive. You get the Fox 32 as well. The only real downside is you do get a 27.2 seat post. So it's going to limit your dropper post options, and you can only get around about a max max 125 mil drop, which on this kind of bike isn't necessarily a huge issue, but it would be nice to have a slightly bigger seat post, so there's a few more options there. So moving on to the Xstrata range. So this is probably another one really popular bike in the Polygon lineup. So it's probably one of the better value, kind of more, as I said, kind of more that XC trail kind of down country style hardtails. So it did get a geometry update last year. So it's got some decent geometry. So 75-degree seat angle, 67 head angle, and I think it's around about a 450-ish kind of reach on the size large. So for a hardtail for this kind of riding, it's going to be pretty nice and balanced. Not super long like a few of the other hardtails. So if you do want something a little bit more stable in this price point, something like my Marin Bobcat Trail might be a good option. Then you've also got other bikes in my budget mountain bike lineup, budget mountain bike hardtail lineup. So there's a few other options kind of around this price point as well. But yeah, so the Xstrata 6 is probably my pick in the lineup, I would say. So you're getting that one by drivetrain, good frame with the geometry that you kind of really want. It is a quick release axle, so there's not going to be it's not a bike that I would take on super rough terrain, but for kind of more those flowy trails and a little bit of tech, then it's going to be a good option. There's the Xstrata 5, but you do step down to a 2x drivetrain, so on that one there. So I think the Xstrata 6 is where the value is at. You can step up to the Xstrata 7, so it's got through axles front and rear. So if you do prefer through axles and you want some bit more stiffness, then the Xstrata 7 is going to be a great option, and you get a little bit wider range in terms of the drivetrain as well. So you do get that 27.2 seat post as well, like on the Syncline. But other than that, I think it's probably one of the better value kind of more entry-level hardtails that's proper trail ready as well. So it's definitely worth a look if you're looking at getting into mountain biking. So then you kind of move into the Premier range, which is kind of more your hobby mountain bikes. So it's kind of for someone that's getting into mountain biking that's just going to be doing more fire trails, very smooth single track. So it's not kind of a bike that I would take on more aggressive trails and doing jumps and stuff like that. I would definitely recommend going up to the Xstrata range with those two. And then you kind of go down the Cascade range as well, which is very similar to those bikes. So it's going to be a good value hobby bike as well. Other than that, you got the Trids, which are a great option if you're kind of getting into not getting into dirt jumping. The dirt jumps have been ridden on the world stage, as you saw Anthony Mazzeri, and then Sam Reynolds in the past has ridden them as well. So the Trid's probably one of the better value dirt jump bikes on the market. So if you're looking to get into something like that, then the Trid's a great option. And then there's the Trid ZZ, which is a slope style bike. So it's dual suspension. So you're going to be a little bit more forgiving. Other than that, that's pretty much it in terms of the mountain bikes. Other than that, you've got the Bromo. I have ridden this one briefly. So the rear suspension, so this is the new suspension platform that they've got. So it's the IFS. So we'll go into so you can have a better look at it. So it's a pretty cool linkage. There's 6 bars essentially, so it's hard to kind of get your head around. But essentially, if you were to remove, I guess, the seat stay, the axle path is completely independent from the leverage and all that kind of stuff like that. So the wheel path and leverage are pretty much separate and isolated. So that means it's going to get out of the way of things really, really well, and the pedaling performance isn't influenced by all that kind of stuff like that. So it's all independent, which is really good. So it's super, super supple. Like this thing tracks amazingly. It's like over the chunky stuff. It's absolutely awesome. And then it's just like got that hover bike effect. Like it still feels nice and supple, but it's just like staying planted, but also just like you look at the suspension, it's so active going over the chunky stuff. So yeah, it's absolutely awesome bike. So if you're looking to get an e-bike, the battery is a 500 watt, but again, I use my e-bike like I would my normal bike. I just would probably get an extra lap. So I wouldn't be using much of the battery capacity, but I know a lot of people will go out doing super all day big epics and stuff like that. So that's something to take into consideration, but it's a dialed bike. The spec's great for the money. Geometry is absolutely dialed as well. So yeah, so that's pretty much the main bikes. So I did miss Cut Laps. I did talk a little bit about the N9 earlier, but just to recap that, because this has been an absolute mess tonight. I'm so sorry about that. But yeah, so not sure what's happening with the update and all that kind of stuff like that. Don't know if it's getting updated this year or it's just a stock issue. They've been pretty quiet about that kind of stuff like that. So I don't know, unfortunately. But I have heard that stock will be arriving kind of around February, March. But I don't know what it's going to look like and all that kind of stuff like that. So unfortunately, I don't have any info here at the moment. But I do think, what's his name? What was it? It's off the top of my head. Can't remember at the moment. He was on the stream last night. He did a video about I'm so sorry if I forget his name, but essentially he did. If you look up Polygon Siskiyou N9 review, you'll probably. He's an Australian guy. It's just the names cannot remember at the time, but he did I think he got a message about when the stock coming for the N9. He did a video about it. So when I kind of after the stream, I'll put it in the comments as well, so you guys can see that. Okay, so I'll go into some questions now. So if you got any questions about the lineup, or if you got any questions about the bikes and stuff like that, leave them in the comments and I will answer them now. We've got another around 20 minutes before I have to go. So sorry about the stream as well, guys. I know it's been a bit messy today, but yeah, it's for some reason the connection wasn't working well. But yeah, we'll go through some of the questions here. I'll go back up. Okay, so Marty, what's the difference between the team? Yeah, so it's around that kind of $500-$600 range between the T and the 8. So it's probably better off value-wise going for the T8 if you can, because if you're factoring the fork upgrade, you might be able to get a second-hand fork around $400-$500. But if you're buying that fork new, it's going to be kind of around about $750 to $1,000 if you're getting a new fork. Yes, sorry, Lucas. Yes, right. Spinning wheels. So if you search spinning wheels, here has an update on the N9. Check it out. Cutlaps asks, saying Jeffrey, similar kind of question. What would be a better buy, the T8 or N9? So it really depends on your style of riding. For me, if you've ever seen my videos and stuff like that, I'm not doing the craziest drops or stuff like that. I'm actually riding more mellow stuff than I did in my trails, my old videos as well. So if you're just doing most of the trail riding around Australia, the T8 will be more than enough. The N9 is just going to be a little bit more forgiving, and it's kind of not as versatile on the flatter trails and stuff like that. Oh, it's happened again. No. What is going on? Oh, it's switched to a different camera. Now we're just frozen. All right. Well, you can hear me, can't you? So we'll just roll without the camera for now. I'm back. All right. Should be good now. I have a feeling I might have figured out the problem, but I could be wrong. But yeah, we'll see. Fingers crossed to get it fixed for tomorrow because yeah, this will be if I can't sort this out and get it working for the rest of the month, we're not going to be in much luck. um, so yeah, where were we? Where were we? Marty Richards asks, is the N9 tough enough for enduro, e.g. wheel set, bottom bracket, and stuff like that? I mean, yeah, it'll be definitely tough enough. As with most things with wheels from factory, they're probably something that I would pay a little bit more attention to. Spoke tension's the main thing. So, I mean, the wheels are tough enough. It's just a matter of if you keep on top of spoke tension with most of these bikes, that's going to be the main thing if you're using the stock wheel set from most brands. Yeah. Bottom bracket is same as well between most. It's a Shimano bottom bracket, so it would do the job fine. Josh MTB, would I upgrade the D7? Yeah, I think it's definitely worth if you had the bike and you were enjoying it, and that's kind of the trails that you're riding. You're not going to be doing some crazy stuff on the descents, but you want to line it up a little bit. I definitely think it would be worth upgrading. The wheel set and then the fork would be the main two upgrades that I do. Get some good tires on there. It's a great bike. I think there's definitely I would like to see a D8 in the future. I think that would be an awesome bike. Okay, so I think we can get back down to the questions because we're working again now. There we go. Oh, so I've got. I'm sorry, I haven't been putting the comments up. So is it Canobolis? I really want to ride Canobolis. I think it's got some awesome trails there. Harry, what's the problem? I think the problem was that I think because I've got StreamYard open and then I had the live open on YouTube. That's not necessarily doing anything, but it was just there so I could monitor to see if it's connected to there. I don't know if that was messing with it because it's kind of trying to get the camera from both places. That could be the issue, but we'll have to see because I did have that open yesterday. So I don't know if that's the actual problem, but we'll see. I might also hardwire the computer, the Ethernet cable, so instead of using Wi-Fi as well. Hopefully that might fix the problem, but we'll see. Jordy, I'm favorite YouTuber. Thanks, man. Always means a lot hearing that. Z-Dog, Trail Talk MTV. Do any of the Polygon bikes have bottle cages? Yes. Yeah, so everyone besides the Bromo and N don't have them. The Siskiyou T and D have bottle cage mounts. Yeah, that's pretty much answered it. So Jim Jam, what bike would I recommend for an all-rounder? Yeah, anything kind of it depends on which kind of end of the spectrum you're kind of talking about when you're talking about an all-rounder. So if you're looking for something from like XC, trail, enduro, then you can't go wrong with a trail bike. But then there's also people that focus more on the enduro side of things and want something a bit more versatile. But for me, kind of just getting a classic trail bike is the way to go. So yeah, kind of around that 130 to 140 kind of range, even the 120 bikes these days, if you can get something that's a little bit more stable, it's like a head angle, that could have been a good option. Geordie asks, is Marin my favorite brand? I think they've got some great bikes. If I was going to pick a favorite brand, regardless of price, I'd probably say something like, I don't know, it's tough to say. I do like Santa Cruz because it's just like the frames are bulletproof, like the warranty's amazing. So it's tough to go past something like that. If I was to pick one bike, that would probably be one that I would probably say is my favorite. But there's just so many different brands like out there at the moment that have some great bikes. Yeah, I think the Ethernet will be the hopefully the fix, but yeah, we just don't know. So Geordie, yeah, said that as well. Kind of got that. Marty says, is Merida doing a new 140 or 60 models? I don't know. I haven't heard anything from Merida. Would love to get in contact with them to see and review some of the bikes, but also see what's going on with their new bikes because they've been around for ages. I mean, see, even since I was working at 99 Bikes, so that's over 3 years ago. And even when I was there, like the 160 came out like 5 years ago, and like the 140 and 120 were the year after that. So they're 100% due for an update. But yeah, I haven't heard anything about that. Lucas W, have you any recommendations for a budget GPS unit? Your phone? No, I'm kidding. Like I haven't messed around too much with GPS units and stuff like that. But in terms of when I was working in the bike shop, Wahoo seemed to be the best option out there. But also Garmin's a good option too. But I feel like they kind of got kind of comfortable with being like the market leaders, and they haven't really done much to kind of improve them over the past few years. And then Mason asks, what's my thoughts on the N7? I haven't. It's a great bike. I ride a lot downhill on enduro. Yeah, I think the N7 is a great fun bike. Great value. Still really nimble. So I kind of like to think of it as a kind of like a long-legged trail bike. So you can kind of do more of that free ridey kind of stuff where you still want a nice nimble bike, but you got a bit of extra suspension travel. Yeah, I think it's a great option. But yeah, if you got any last questions, I'm gonna have to jump off soon. I know I've kind of messed up the stream a bit tonight, but yeah, we'll have to jump on and fix it again. Get it all fixed for tomorrow, and hopefully it's will be all working. But yeah, if you have any questions about this Polygon lineup or anything, just quickly leave them in the comments now, and then I'll answer them as quickly as possible. Yeah. Octa Marty asks, is Silverback bikes in Australia? Yes, 99 bikes sold them. So I think when there was a big bike shortage end of, last year, they started selling Silverback bikes. So they've got some good options, good value options. I did notice on the entry level hardtail that they've got it's like a great price for a one buy. The chainstays are super, super long though. That was the one thing that I noticed, but and the frames are a little bit heavy, but I think if you're looking for a great spec bike, I think they're a good option. Will I be reviewing any Norcos before Christmas? Unfortunately not. Haven't got any access to any Norcos at the moment. But yeah, if you have any last questions, quickly leave them and I'll answer them as quickly as possible. Other than that, I've got to head to the gym, actually do some exercise, fix my back. But I don't think we've got any more questions coming through. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I actually got one last question. Geordie asks, do I know where I can buy a Marin Alpine Trail 7? If you're in Australia, the only place you can get them is at Bicycles Online. They're the exclusive retailer of Marin. But yeah, I think the Alpine Trail 7, let me have a quick look. I believe it was going to be early next year from my last recollection. So around February for the Alpine Trail 7s if you're in Australia. Marty says, was the e-Polygon fun? 100% fun. It was super, super planted. So, I mean, when it comes to e-bikes, unless you're getting one of the lightweight ones, they're not going to be super playful. But this thing was just like what you'd want out of kind of like a super stable e-bike. Like it was just so planted. The suspension was so active over the chunky stuff, but still pedaled amazingly. And then Linus asks, any bikes comparable to the 2021 D7? I think if you're kind of looking at that price point, the only thing that I can think of that kind of competes is the Vitus Mythique. And then that's kind of got a little bit more, I'd say more leaning more towards the trail end as opposed to the downcountry end on the D7. So it really depends on what you value as well. So if you want something more efficient, I'd probably go to D7. If you're looking for something a little bit more on the trailier side, then the Mythique's a good option. But I would also start looking at the Siskiyou T7 at that point. Sweet. I think the last question we're going to answer, Marin Rift Zone 3 or Norco Fluid FS1. So I've ridden both of those bikes. I'd have to go the Rift Zone 3 on that one. The Fluid, I feel like the geometry was really good, but the rear suspension was just left a little bit to be desired for me. Like you could mess around with the tuning and stuff like that to get a fully dialed setup. But in my experience, I didn't necessarily like it as much as the Marin Rift Zone. Geometry is a little bit newer on the Rift Zone, so a little bit longer reach. But I just found the suspension on the Rift Zone a little bit better. But to be honest, they're both great bikes. You can't go wrong with either of them, especially for that kind of riding. I don't think they're both, I mean, I'm comparing like two very great value bikes and both very good. So I wouldn't take that as one's bad, one's not. They're two of the leaders kind of in the market in that kind of range. So it's still a great bike. Yeah, anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully the stream will be a bit better tomorrow. And yeah, as always, guys, thanks for watching. See ya.